Hey, how's it going? I wanted to do a video. A gal reached out to me, saying she's got a lot of stress in her marriage right now. She feels like she's not a very good wife. I'd like to just read what she wrote. I do want to acknowledge I'm under the red light. My choices were set up the lighting rig to have lighting in the evening, or I could just sit in my nice chair, adjust my tripod, and be under the red light like I am every evening. So this tends to be my evening vibe. I thought I'd share it with you. So she writes, they start a new business. She says, all the stress is getting to me, and she also has a brand new baby, very new baby. All the stress is getting me, and I think it is affecting our marriage. Balancing a baby, new business, and household duties has been hard on me, and I wish I could get more alone time with my husband. I miss him. I know that he is under incredible amounts of stress, more than me, because he is the provider and protector of our family. Yeah, so that may or may not be true. You know, it's like I'm playing the game of like who's under more stress. It's just, there's enough to go around, right? There's enough to go around. So when you get the stress figured out, I think you just have to start where you perceive you'll be most effective. But just because he is the protector and provider, is he under more stress? I mean, the logic doesn't necessarily follow. So you have to just be empirical, right? Flatly empirical. All that being said, do you have any advice on how I could be a better wife to my husband at this time? When I ask him, he says I'm doing a good job, but I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job. Is there something I'm missing or something else I can be doing for him? And then I wrote her a little bit back. I suggested a couple things. She said, I think my problem is stress. I appreciate the video you sent. It was a video with some vagal exercises to just calm the body down in the nervous system. I will try to do that every day. It's something that I do really often. I really enjoy it. I think that I have been getting overwhelmed easily, and I can take it out on my husband with a bad attitude. I want to be a great wife and mother. I feel terrible for my behavior. When I get overwhelmed, my mind jumps to accusing my husband of things, and I'm worried that my behavior pushes him away from me. Well, it does. It does. I want to be as close to my husband as I was before the business and baby. I don't know how to solve this. Yeah, and I really sympathize with that. I think that is like a really noble desire. Gosh, I'm trying to get my laptop plugged in here, so I don't want the screen to go dark. I want to be able to refer to it instantly if I need to. So there is a sentence here. I get overwhelmed easily, and I can take it out on my husband with a bad attitude. I think that part is really interesting. A bad attitude could take it out. So it sounds like there's a bit of aggression going on. Maybe it's not a hard aggression, but it's some kind of aggression. Maybe some sort of nagging, and then there's the accusations. I wonder what those are. I am partly making this video. I do just want to send this video over to the gal because it is a bit of a brainstorm session, and I want to give something more substantive than an email. But this is anonymous, so I do feel I can put this up on the YouTube. Although maybe it'll be a little wild seeing me in the red or whatever. Maybe I'll have to switch to the more conventional lighting scheme. But anyway, yeah, this whole thing, like a bad attitude. So, that could be like pouting, or that could be, like nagging, or a bad attitude, like sort of like bristling and brushing the man off. And, generally what happens with overwhelm, it's obviously, it's too much sensory input. That's the first thing I think of. And so if there's too much sensory input, then there can be a troubling or disturbing thought. And then that can bring on defensiveness. And then there can be a defensiveness that it's like it pushes the man away because it's just too much, and this is it's a form of freezing. I don't know if this is what's going on for the gal that wrote me, but this is something that I think of. This fight, flight, or freeze, right? And this freeze form of like, don't touch me, get away from me, like I'm upset. I guess you could even characterize it as flight a bit, but yeah, what I think about with that is like catching the disturbing thoughts, and obviously de-escalating, like just not getting involved in things that contribute to stress. If you're starting to get stressed out, I write about this in my book, Peaceful Parenting. I'll try to remember to put a link for that down below. So I think it's a good section in the book. It's called Family Stress. And it just talks about the transmissibility of stress. We do really live in a system when we have a family, especially with young children. We're just very involved. We're very involved with one another, and everybody's moods can rub off on each other. You know, it's important to have some kind of practice every day for de-escalation. I mean, I have many things, right? I'm under the red light. That definitely relaxes me. I'd steal away, right? I get what time I can. Sometimes it's a very busy life. But, you know, I still journal with some consistency, not as much as I used to. And certainly since I became a parent, it's become more scant. But that's a good way of de-stressing. I drink some tea. I drink tea between meals, maybe at least once or twice a day. I find that to be relaxing, particularly like a peppermint tea or like a chamomile tea in the evening. And you know, there's just a consistency you have to keep with your habits. Also, you can live in a stressful environment. Maybe live in like an apartment complex where things are stressy, or you've got a neighbor that just won't shut up, or maybe you live next to a highway, or, you know, there's all sorts of contributors, right? But your environment, you can more or less control. What you ingest, you can more or less control. You may be eating some food that you're pretty unconscious, and then you're eating the food, and then it's maybe you're like partly allergic to it, or it's agitating for you anyway. And so having, you know, keeping a food log maybe, and just tracking that sort of thing. Like, I have my diet pretty dialed in. I've got some ailments going on, unfortunately, but my food is not inflammatory. I'm very, very confident about that. And I've actually had like a blood antigen test to show for myself, to see which foods kick up antigens and which don't. So I have a pretty non-inflammatory diet. But I have these practices in place, right? I do sauna sometimes. With a mother, and the other thing too, it's like, so you're at one baby, and there's the overwhelm and the stress, and then there's going to be baby number 2. And a lot of mothers say that baby number 3, that's when the stress peaks. And maybe you have all boys, you know. And as a mother, that's a highly kinetic situation. Boys can be pretty swashbuckling, you know. So as a mother, that's going to be very stressful. And so you want to anticipate, actually, that things are going to ramp up. So having those good daily practices. I know this doesn't go into the childhood and isn't some deep psychological read, but it is something very accessible, readily doable, actionable. And then it is worth considering, like, just how much fight or flight you were raised with, you know, how much stress. There's the good stress, eustress, and then there's the bad stress. And that will lead to spikes in cortisol, blood pressure. And if you were raised with a lot of that, then some of your personality is going to be around that. Maybe you're kind of a ball buster, right? Some women, you know, what's she saying? She's giving them a hard time, a bad attitude. Maybe you've been a bit of a ball buster. Who knows? So, so thinking about where you picked that up from, you know, maybe you had kind of a feminist mother or something. Maybe you had a girl boss mother. Maybe you had some sort of role model she was a bit of a ball buster. Hey, did you pick that up from there? I think that's some good self-reflection, you know, thinking about some of these roles that we play and how much of that is just programmed and how much of it really is our spontaneous response. I think, you know, looking back at the child and looking back on like bad influences, you know, maybe dad was a rageaholic, maybe raged out, maybe he went on tears around the place. You know, you have to look at just how people handled their stress historically around you. And then when you really think about that, you make the connection to how you're behaving today, it reduces greatly the holding power. It's the power that this thing holds over you, this loss of control. When you feel overwhelmed, then you can start to identify, oh, look, I'm acting like my mother, oh, I'm acting like my father, I'm acting like my brother, my older sister, I'm acting like somebody. And I'm not really in my agency. I'm not in my free will. I'm doing something deterministically here. I think that's a really good route to go as well. It requires memory, right? It requires like sitting and remembering things. And maybe that's painful for you. Maybe you don't want to do that. But that's what I espouse. That's what I think is the key to so many things. Conscious self-reflection in the moment, right? In the moment there's a difficult feeling, slow down. Slow down. That's a big muscle for me. right? I have a really good, I'm very non-reactive at this point. I was just saying to my wife yesterday, that is one of the things I'm most proud of, because I used to be quite reactive. And since becoming a parent, it's really slowed down for me. And even to another level, since I made the decision to leave a will to power, leave politics over 2 years ago, I gained a whole new level of choice. And so that muscle for me is really well built up. And I really recommend it, this non-reaction sort of thing. And also I've learned to take negative. Someone can engage in a negative with me, and I can spin that into a positive. I couldn't do that in my 20s. I mean, but I think it's a sort of charming thing to do. I think it's fun. I think it's playful. And sometimes you're not going to get positive input, particularly as a parent. Sometimes you're going to get some sort of stressy input or whatever. And then if you don't reverse the polarity on that, right? If you meet positive with positive or whatever, you can repel. And I don't really like that. So, although I don't know, would I meet positivity with negativity? No, I wouldn't. So, but you get what I'm saying there. The metaphor didn't suss out. Okay, we'll survive. So, I also think that when you leave something so open-ended, like a new business, and you just say, look, and maybe you haven't thought about this, but you leave this new venture, let's say the business, right? For me, sometimes it's been a book. Like I'll leave the book. It'll just be an open-ended obligation. And it's like, and I think the best books can be written this way. But as a parent, I've had to juggle. I've had to balance things. When you take on a new commitment, you have a new venture, and you just say, this gets unlimited resources, then it can come to dominate your life. And I don't really believe in that. I believe in having a good life balance. I have a good work-life balance. I have a good family balance. Trying to get my health balance back. We're working really assiduously this year. I've been working on that. So, and then the other thing with a kid too, it's like, you can talk to a baby, people think, because they can't speak back, they don't understand. And I've seen children understand by about 6 months. And I've seen babies sign earlier than that. So, this lady who wrote me is definitely, she's around, she's in there. It's a newer baby, but, you can do the sign language, but you can speak. I think the more you unpack yourself with language to others, the more you exist. And that is certainly the case as a parent. You want to exist in a big way to your kids as a parent. And people think, and you owe them play and you owe them engagement. And I think of this line, the Springsteen line, my father was somebody that I'd see around. And that's such an empty statement, And that poor guy's been sick with his dad's madness his whole life. He's never been able to shake off his dad's madness. And if there'd just been a lot more conversation between them, and that was the father's failing, and that was the father's responsibility. I'm not saying that's happening here. It's just a thought that comes to mind. Like talking through things well in advance and framing things out. You'd be, some parents have like trouble with their kids at nighttime because it's nighttime they're tough and all this. But then you look into the day, and the day is like very stressful. And there hasn't been a lot of conversation. And I believe in conversational relationships. I believe in depth-oriented conversational relationships. We take the time. You're looking for value, right? Because some people have a burning need, right? They have a burning need for connection. And so they throw their need into the interaction. And I don't believe in that. I believe in value for value. And so this way the best comes out in a person. And if you have needs, that's okay. That's okay. I'm not saying you can't get your needs filled through somebody else. But there's like a limit on that, And you have to keep the goodwill in the relationship balanced. So if you take too much, if you withdraw, you'll start to withdraw in the goodwill in the relationship, and then you'll start to be a drag. So this another thing. What do I think of with this bad attitude thing? Bad attitude. So that can also be like a paternalistic sort of triangulation on the part of the husband. The husband can be like, "You are not respecting my authority. You're giving me sass," and that's not a winning engagement. That's not going to work. It's funny. It can be funny. King of Queens, this old show with Kevin James, was just the woman like busting his balls and him like wriggling. And it can be kind of funny sometimes. But yeah, the reverse would be the man's like, you are sassing me. I don't think that works. I think, it is incumbent upon, it's not like the man is perfect, right? It's incumbent upon the man to bring curiosity to interactions. And it does escalate when a man's like getting on a woman like that. It does escalate the situation. I'm not in favor of that. A man needs to be able to own his reactions as well. So there's been a lot in this video about, asking for the woman to own her reactions, but it's important for the man too as well. Because the man can be all agitated and high blood pressure and he's like working hard or whatever. And then the woman's like sassing. She's sassing. But then, if as a man you're like, "Woman, don't you sass," then you're getting it up there too. You're putting your high blood pressure into her. And it's hard. It's a muscle to work on. It's not one of these, I don't know. People say, oh, when you have your first kid, and it's like as a woman has her effect on you, your testosterone drops, and so people would say, oh, that like a willingness to come to terms with a woman is some sort of it's a sign that a man's T has dropped or something. But I don't believe in that. I've had my T levels tested this year, and they're really good. They're in the optimal range, above 800, and it's a question of principle, right? It's the argument for curiosity in a relationship is something that I've posted on my website. I think, what did I call it? I put some good essay on curiosity anyway. But it's something I'm going to have to put up here on YouTube. I'm going to have to discuss this topic more. And it'll be easier to refer to, right? Because you just be able to search it here on YouTube. But when you behave on principles, then it just works out all the wrinkles, instead of like, I don't know, just characterizing things this way and that. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right to do. I think you should behave on principle. I think you should have standards for behavior. I think you should work a lot, when you can, on de-escalating, so that in those tense moments, you're Johnny on the spot. You know what to do. Man, I've come through in the clutch recently, like, in such a nice way. I mean, I have for forever, like for the longest time. I mean, it's in my character, and I've studied philosophy a very long time. But I've hit like a new level for coming through in the clutch, like not being frazzled, not letting things throw me off balance, and delivering the right way with heartfelt confidence and curiosity. Man, my buttons are few now. I've really unprogrammed a lot of those buttons, those escalatory buttons. So in the cool times, in the cool off times, I think it's really good to look at those. What are my triggers? That is, because if you get in a trigger, then you get on this escalatory addiction cycle. Basically, you can be addicted to drama, right? A lot of people also are addicted to gossip. Like, how much gossip do you bring in the home? How much bad mouthing of other people do you do? I haven't had this in my home for over 10 years. One day I just realized, oh shoot, we're gossiping and this is terrible and it puts us in a bad mood. We cannot do this. And it stopped dead in its tracks. And I'm really happy about that, because it can be this idle chatter and it's just talking nonsense or whatever. But if it's not for learning, if it's not like you can look at the shortcomings of somebody else and figure, right, and treat it as theory. But if you treat it as a conclusion, you treat it as fact, and then you're like whining, complaining, getting this low agency waste bin of a thought process, we're just spiraling down. That's no way to go, But if it's looking at things, looking at difficulties, and going, this is what I think is going on, and these are the mechanics, and then like learning from that, then I think that's great, and that's a way of dealing with criticism in a really great way. And this way, you're not ginning each other up, because people can do this. They'll like complain, and they'll get in a complaint spiral, and then they'll gin each other up, and then they'll fight with each other as a result of like people outside of the situation. And I don't think that's productive at all. So anyway, I feel my duty's calling. I gotta go do some things. So was the red light all right? I really like it, man. The red light it activates your mitochondria. It's a really nice thing to do at night. It stimulates a fireplace. I want to be sure that I put that link for Peaceful Parenting down below. I want to be sure I get that over to you, because I'd really love it. If you haven't yet, for you to read a copy of it. And I always love a review on that. And so if this was a good video for you, I want you to smash the thumbs up. I want you to subscribe. I want you to stick around. The Franssen is starting to kick off. I'm starting to come back. I've been under terrible, terrible health, and I'm pulling myself out of it. I'm in treatment right now, heavy-duty treatment, serious treatment. It ain't no joke what I'm doing. At some point, I'll detail it. But until I'm confident it's gone through and it's stuck, I don't want to speak on it too much yet. So I beat some things earlier this year. I'm going to beat some more things. It's good to be alive. Good to be with you. Every day is a gift. Thanks for being with me. You could be anywhere else. I'm going to jump out of here now. I'll talk to you soon.